Could a video game cause the U.S. Congress to waste millions of tax dollars in order to grandstand in front of the nation? Yes. Yes, one did. That game we're going to talk about today that launched congressional hearings and changed the video game industry forever is Night Trap. Well, it's still October, even though it's just about over. Halloween is coming, so let's talk horror. Horror games have always had a place in the video game industry. So when Sega CD was pumping out full-motion video titles in the early 90s, it's no surprise that one of the first games released was the horror-themed game Night Trap. Night Trap was developed and released by Digital Pictures. Yes, the studio that brought us Sewer Shark and other wonderful full-motion video games. Like Sewer Shark, Night Trap was originally developed for Hasbro's ill-fated VHS-based system. Night Trap has its origins actually in a game called Scene of the Crime, a concept that was developed in 1986. Digital Pictures actually put an Easter egg in the Sega CD release of the game, in which you can watch the developers watching Scene of the Crime. Unfortunately, they didn't actually put the prototype footage in. That would have been too nice. The finished product of the game was filmed over the course of 16 days back in 1987. The game had a budget supposedly of $1.5 million. When Hasbro's system was shelved, so was Night Trap. The game eventually found its home in 1992 on the Sega CD. Night Trap was directed by James Riley. He wrote, directed, and produced some of the other Digital Picture titles as well. He actually has an impressive visual effects resume, including working on 24, House of Lies, Californication, Episodes, The Office, and CIS Miami. And it's a long ways from this. The game was written by Terry McDonald. Most of his non-video game work consists of producing swimsuit videos for Sports Illustrated, although he did write a couple of episodes of Miami Vice. The actors featured in the game mostly were locals that had no other acting credits, with the exception of a few character actors mixed in. The only star of note was Dana Plato. She was one of the stars in the 80s comedy Different Strokes. Unfortunately, her struggles with addiction derailed her career and her life. She had committed suicide in 1999 by ODing. Night Trap follows a typical Teen B horror movie plot. You're a member of the Special Control Attack Team, or SCAT. Yes, in Night Trap, you are SCAT. And the game gives you a nice introduction to the story.
I'm Sims, SCAT Team Commander, SCAT Mission 230. 5 teenage girls on their way to a weekend house party at the old Lakeshore Winery house of Mr. and Mrs. Victor Martin and their 2 children, Jeff and Sarah. Your mission, protect those 5 girls from whatever happened to another bunch of teenagers. They disappeared after spending a night at the Martins. Last night, one of our agents got into the house and found a weird security system. Hidden cameras in almost every room and a series of traps.
The only problem is the game runs in real time, so if you watch the entire introduction, this happens.
If you don't have the brains or the guts for this assignment, give the controls to someone who does. The girls should be pulling into the driveway. You're wasting time. Get over there now. Looks like you're not up for this mission. Breaking contact.
So this is one of the only games that I know that ends if you watch the entire beginning. That's unique. Your team is hacked into the cameras and the traps in the Martin Winery. There are 5 teenage girls headed into the house, and one of them is a part of your team. Her name is Kelly. Occasionally she breaks the fourth wall to communicate with you.
Control, we're going in.
You have a couple of choices of how you play the game. Either you can watch the drama unfold, which will result in you losing, but is more entertaining, or you can ignore the drama and try to win the game. To beat Night Trap, you have to capture these guys in black. They are the Augs. The controls are very simple. A switches the room you're watching, B sets off the trap, and C changes the code color. To capture an auger, you have to wait until the gauge at the bottom turns red, then you have to trigger the trap. It appears that most of the budget went towards trap design. You do have to be careful though, because if you hit the trap at the wrong time, occasionally this can happen. So if you memorize the movement of the augers, or find a guide on the internet, you click from room to room trying to trap them. Sadly, this allows you to win, but unfortunately, you miss the best part of the game, which is the acting.
So, what's happening tonight, Dad? Well, we have to bottle the 2 downstairs, and Sarah's coming in with 6 more tonight.
6? Yeah.
The problem is Sheila and I might have to make a delivery.
That's no problem. Tony and I can handle it.
I'm not so sure.
These have to go too.
Whoa, 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 what's this? This is special vintage.
Oh, Jeffrey, don't be so selfish. Think of the poor, starving augers.
Those animals.
They're here.
Good!
So all you do is trap, trap, and trap. The other thing is you have to be in the correct room when the color for the code changes. The color change is randomized, so you have to see it.
Change the trap access code from blue to green.
Eventually, you need to save each of the girls, allowing them to escape, and then trap all of the members of the family, which leaves Kelly as the only person in the house.
She's getting away. She went up the stairs. Oh, Victor.
After you, my dear.
If you have a perfect run, you can also trap Kelly at the end. I wasn't patient enough to play through it enough times to get a perfect ending. Sorry. The critics were very kind to Night Trap when it was released. Sega Force gave Night Trap an 86 out of 100, stating that the actors kept it up, giving Night Trap an incredible tacky yet humorous feel. There are more games to come, and they can only get better, if they only knew. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave the game an 8 out of 10, saying, although looking hokey, this just adds to the tongue-in-cheek humor. And finally, the critics at GamePro gave Night Trap a 4 out of 5. We can't talk about Night Trap without discussing the controversy that surrounded the game in the early 90s. The game was released in '92 to very little fanfare. It wasn't until someone got the ear of a couple members of Congress, especially Senator Joseph Lieberman, that video games were leading America's youth to acts of violence against women. In 1993, Congress held hearings about violence in video games. The 2 of the games that Congress focused their heat on were Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. Now everyone knew Mortal Kombat because the crowds drawn to the game arcades. Over-the-top violence, fatalities, was fantastic. Night Trap, on the other hand, was little known and received a major boost from the grandstanding politicians. Controversy helped Night Trap out so much that according to internet resources, the game sold 50,000 copies within the first week that it was in front of Congress. Eventually, the game was pulled from the shelves. Now, this is where my part of the story comes in. When the game got banned, I had to have it. I was in 7th or 8th grade. If you're going to tell me I can't play a video game for whatever reason, I have to have it. That was the attitude. So I saved my money from my paper route and I spent 80 bucks on a used copy of the Sega CD version of Night Trap. Now, this attitude also led me to go out and buy a used copy for 30 bucks of Ice-T's metal band Body Count's first album that was also banned. Yep, I still have that CD as well. So here I was, middle school age, got a banned copy of a video game that's been all over the news for being controversial. My reaction was, meh. For one of the first games to receive a mature rating, it's extremely tame. If you play through the game correctly, all you see is guys getting trapped over and over and over. There's little to no violence, little blood, no cursing, and that's it. Compared to GTA 5, this is Sesame Street. I honestly think that if this game were released today, it would barely get a teen rating. All that being said, I love this game. Well, I love how the game captures the 80s. If I ever need to show my kids what the 80s were like, I'm going to show them this clip. The camp in the movie clips has no bounds. We've got a bunch of locals who are overacting at every chance. So great.
You gotta be jabbing me. Let's cuff these freaks and drag them downtown.
Hold it! I don't think you understand.
Well, I guess we'll have to take care of this ourselves. That's it, take him in.
Get him, Deke.
Oh, please. Your bullets cannot hurt me.
But this is the thing about Night Trap. You don't play it because the gameplay is great. It's not. It's a glorified game of memory. You play Night Trap because it's very campy, and it's full of horror tropes and bad acting. Night Trap was recently re-released on the PS4 and Steam. I happened to order a physical copy from Limited Run Games because, hey, what can I say? I'm loyal to my nostalgia. If you want to experience Night Trap in all its full motion video glory, get a copy on the PS4 or for your PC and rock out. Thank you.
You guys, you gotta help me. Please, use the traps. Now! The wall crack! Yeah! Help me, please. You're the only one that can save me. You're all mine now. Thanks, Control. You just saved my life. And you were very good. You saved all my friends. Trapped most of the Oggs. I'll bet with a little practice you could be perfect.